evening, hello and welcome. You're watching CNN News 18. This is Nation at 5 with me, Poonam Burde. There's lots lined up for you on this edition, but let's get you started with a CNN News 18 super exclusive. And Pakistan seems to be running into rough weather with a fair weather ally, China. The latest that we are now gathering as far as the CPEC project is concerned is that China is now wary of any more expansion in Pakistan as far as the CPEC corridor is concerned. We're learning that the major reason is the difference of opinion between Beijing and Islamabad on a coal-based power plant in Gwadar, which Pakistan finally agreed to, but it caused a delay of 1 year, and that has really irked the Chinese side, which is why they're now looking to walk out of any more expansion, given to any more reasons for this cash-strapped nation to perhaps look for relief or reprieve as far as this investment is concerned. Let's take a look at what exactly we've gathered here from our sources. What kind of reasons the Chinese side has now put forth and how this is really going to impact the Pakistani side as far as the CPEC project is concerned. Let's take a look at how exactly the CPEC project has now hit a roadblock. This is what we've gathered from our sources within the Chinese side. This is in fact the 11th Joint Cooperation Committee of the CPEC, and they have come out and listed out their reasons as to why they're doing so. They say that China didn't agree to a host of measures that Pakistan had proposed. China was very clear on what they wanted, and there was a difference of opinion between the two sides. Beijing refused to expand cooperation on specifically three issues: energy, water and climate. Beijing said, these are our terms, there is going to be no more walking around it. Areas like Giglit-Baltistan, Khyber-Pakhtunkhwa, POK and coastal areas was where the difference of opinion was, where the disagreement was of expansion in these particular areas. Remember, these particular areas are also where we've seen protests break out against the Chinese side, against the Chinese contractors and employees. Well, let's also now take a look at why exactly China is upset with Pakistan. Remember, they both seem to be fair weather allies, supporting each other on multiple global fora, but something seems to have now given way. Here's the reason why China seems to be upset with Pakistan now. China is not ready to extend any more faculty to Pakistan. Pakistan's close proximity to Afghanistan seems to now be unnerving Beijing. They're trying to be wary of that connection because it seems like it is having an impact on the investments China is making as far as the CPEC project goes. China also is believed to be upset with security lapses as far as the CPEC project goes. Certain reasons of security lapses in Karachi have also now been cited by the Chinese side. Differences over coal-fired power plant in Gwadar is something that China has now raised. There was a difference of opinion over that. Unfortunately for Pakistan, they could not convince China why they should go on with this kind of expansion. Anand Narasimhan, my colleague, now joining us for more perspective on this. Anand, what does this mean for a country as cash-strapped as Pakistan is, anyway has very few allies?
Well, we have to understand that this is because there is a lot between, or a lot of slips between the cup and the lip. The joint cooperation meeting happened sometime in September, October 2022, if I remember correctly. And it was at the insistence of the ruling PMLN at that time, because Shehbaz Sharif government was very keen to show that there is great progress that's happening as far as the CPEC is concerned. But the minutes of those meetings were signed only sometime in July 2023. Now, this story is also now gathering traction in Pakistan, and the media reports very clearly, as our group editor security Manoj Gupta has pointed out, that China has actually taken off a lot of issues from the minutes. One of the things the Pakistanis were talking about, or they were insistent, is that the thermal power plant should buy the coal or shift the location towards the desert, because they were wanting to use the local Thar coal to power the power plant for Gwadar, so that it would also generate some revenues for them, and it means money. The Chinese said, no, we are going to send the coal, it's going to be imported coal power plant, and that's where it was the sticky issue was. So clearly, it is Pakistani soil, but it's Chinese money, Chinese coal, Chinese power, and the Pakistanis will have to buy it from them. So that's what's going to happen. The other thing is they wanted cooperation on climate change, urban resources development, tourism development and cooperation in Khyber-Pakhtunkhwa, in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, and also in the Gilgit-Baltistan region. China said, no, we are not doing any of that. A third thing which they have taken off the minutes, and it's very interesting, is that the cost the financial cost and the repercussions of the plants which they have set up in that CPEC region in the Neelam Jhelum Valley and the increased power with which Pakistan has to buy, Pakistanis wanted some information on some inclusion on that. That's also been struck off from the minutes. So while the Pakistanis were championing after the meeting that six expansion is going to happen on CPEC, it's massive program, it's $60 billion and all of that, none of that is happening. The Chinese have actually said we are actually cutting down. We are going to take far greater control. We want boots on ground. They're very upset with the security management on ground. So all of these issues now are turning around to show that the CPEC is going nowhere, and more importantly, the Chinese and the PLA are turning their attention towards Afghanistan and engaging more with the Taliban establishment there because they feel they can get more done there. And of course, there is far more rare earth minerals, and that corridor from Afghanistan to Wakhan, that Wakhan corridor and passage into China, the Xinjiang territory, that is East Turkestan, that becomes far more critical than expansion of the CPEC and including Pakistan. So is China looking at an option of circumventing Pakistan using the CPEC or Pakistani involvement to the minimum to what is already there and no further expansion? That's the bigger story there, and this is setback to the Pakistanis because there is no Chinese yuan coming into them anymore.
Anand, thank you so much for getting us those details. We are quickly shifting focus, though, some more breaking news that's now coming in, and this is to do with the doors of the Ram Mandir opening to devotees. Remember, we knew that it was going to happen sometime in December, January. Now we have a date of when that is going to happen. We're now learning is that Prime Minister Modi is expected to take part in this consecration ceremony of the Ram Mandir on the 14th of January next year, which is Makar Sankranti. It's celebrated as Makar Sankranti across the country. That is the day where the puja will be done. That is the day when doors of the Ram Mandir will be thrown open to devotees across the country. Pallavi, my colleague, now joining us, getting us more details. Pallavi, we are given to understand this confirmation has come from the Prime Minister's office itself that it is going to happen on the 14th of January. We'll try and reconnect that line with my colleague Pallavi there, who's getting us more details of what exactly is transpiring. We're now learning is that it is expected to happen between Jan 20th to 24th. In fact, next year, the Prime Minister, of course, is going to be a part of this ceremony, which throws open the Grand Ram Temple in Ayodhya to devotees across the country and the world. So far, there is no date that has been set, but it could happen anytime between 20th to 24th of January. This is a confirmation that has come to the fore from the Prime Minister's office, is what we're now learning. Remember, periodically, the Ram Mandir Trust has been sharing pictures, sharing videos of the progress that has been made of the construction of the Grand Ram Temple, which was the construction of which was started after the Supreme Court order that came in. Now we're given to understand that the opening of this Ram Temple for devotees across the country is going to happen in a few months from now, in January in fact. Pallavi, I believe, is now back with us on the phone line. Pallavi, what more details can you share with us?
Picking up essentially that from 14th of
We'll try and reconnect that line now with my colleague Pallavi there to get us more details. But what we're now learning is that the ceremony is going to take place on the 22nd of January. This is a confirmation that has come to the fore from the construction committee chairperson. Between 20th to 24th is when it could happen, is what we were earlier telling you. But now we're given to understand that 22nd is the date that has been decided where the ceremony would take place. Pallavi, I believe, is now back with us on the phone line. Yes, Pallavi.
So basically what we are picking up is that on 14th, which also happens to be Makar Sankranti and is also considered to be one of the most Shubh days for Hindus, certainly, that's going to be the day when the Pran Pratishtha is going to begin. The Pran Pratishtha means that all the sages, the saints, they're going to sit together, going to do that puja, and the puja archana is going to carry on for at least a week. And it's among them that they're going to look at a particular date on which the real idol, the Ram Mandir, is going to be inaugurated. But roughly what we are being told is 22nd to 24th could be the any timeline. Obviously, what confirmed is that the Prime Minister is going to be present there. It's apart from the political, it's going to have more deep religious and emotional connect as far as the Ram Mandir is concerned. So now it has been declared officially by the Ram Mandir Trust that on 19th, that's Makar Sankranti, which is when the Pran Pratishtha is going to begin, which means the process of the idol worship or in the Ram Mandir or the inauguration of the Ram Mandir is going to take place.
Right, Pallavi, these images and videos that have been periodically shared is what we're sharing with our viewers as well of the Ram Temple complex, the construction that has been happening there over the last few months. We knew that this was going to happen sometime in December, January. Now we have a date from 14th to the 24th. Is a 10-day window where we are going to be certainly seeing a lot of events take place, including the Pran Pratishtha there at the Ram Temple. Then the Prime Minister would be participating in these events as well.
So, the procedure is that whenever any kind of a temple is inaugurated, according to Hindu Shastra, it is done through a Pran Pratishtha, which essentially, just to roughly translate, we put in Pran into the idol, so which becomes, then you pay those who open for a worshipping for idol. That's exactly the procedure which is going to be followed, and we always do the Shubh Karikram or these kind of religious ceremonies or holy occasions on the day of Makar Sankranti, which is considered to be the most religious and auspicious period for Hindus, particularly also beginning of the new year. That's 14th of January. That's the period when we are told, what we're being told by sources, for 7 days, for a week, all the saints, the top saints and sages will be assembling there. That puja or Pran Pratishtha will take place, and after that a date is going to be fixed. Tentatively it's 22nd to 24th, any of those particular dates, where the formal inauguration of the Ram Mandir is going to take place. Apart from other politicians, the Prime Minister, of course, is going to be present there. He's going to be present on the day of the unveiling of the Ram Mandir, which has, apart from political overtones, very deep religious as well as emotional overtones.
There'll be several special guests that would be present there is what we're learning. This is the ceremony, the Pran Pratishtha, like Pallavi was also pointing out, of the Ram Janmabhoomi temple that is expected to take place in January, in just a few months from now. Pallavi, what we're also learning is that the construction is almost done. Over 50% work has been done. By December is when the Ram Mandir Trust expects to finish all construction work there. So it is open. There is still a buffer time before the Pran Pratishtha happens and before the gates are thrown open to the devotees.
Yes, in fact, at a record-breaking speed, the work has been done at the Ram Mandir. We've always been putting out pictures from inside the Ram Mandir, the construction which has going on inside. There were various trips which also have been organized where people could go and themselves have a look at it. The Prime Minister himself, whenever he's visited Ayodhya, has met up with all the workers who works 24/7 to ensure that the dream project gets completed soon. So the timeline which is being thought of is by the end of December, when the entire, the handing over is going to take place. And since, we consider Makar Sankranti to be the auspicious beginning time for any auspicious work to begin, that's the day which has been decided for Pran Pratishtha, as I was talking about. And then that process goes into waves. We all knew and we all have been reporting that January is be the date. 22nd to 24th is tentatively the date when the Ram Mandir or the Ram Lila is going to be unveiled. So after the Pran Pratishtha process is over, which lasts for at least a week, where all the way that the Upanishads and all the chants are made by the top sages and saints of the country, across the country, I would say, from all the Shakti Peeths as well. That's when the inauguration is going to take place, roughly between the 22nd and 24th, and of course the Prime Minister is going to be present there.
Right, Pallavi, do stay on with me. Anand, my colleague, also joining us, getting us more details. Now, Anand, we know the kind of work that has gone into the construction of the Ram Temple. The Ram Janmabhoomi Trust has been periodically sharing those images, sharing glimpses of what's going to be in store. But the January ceremony is going to be a grand one. The Prime Minister and several other politicians, dignitaries, of course, are going to be there. But a lot of devotees across the country, across the world, have been waiting for this day to come, isn't it?
Well, we've had Champat Rai, the head of the main trustee of the Ram Janmabhoomi Tirth Trust, speak with us and very clearly say that it will happen after Sankrant and before Jan 26th. And at that time itself, he had hinted that there will be a 10-day celebration. More importantly, please understand that this time around for the 26th January celebrations, the quad leaders have also been invited. So it's going to be a big ceremony. Whether they will be invited for the opening, we'll have to wait and watch in and around the Republic Day celebrations, or will this happen parallelly? We'll have to wait and watch. Now, what we're given to understand is, as Pallavi was saying, that there will be a 10-day consecration ceremony where all the scriptures and more importantly, passages from the Rig Veda will be read out, and all the scriptures and notings which were prevalent during the time of Ram, that is the Satyuga, that will be read out. But more importantly, between the 14th to the 24th, the ideal dates as per astrologers falls after the 20th and before the 20 around the 24th.
Yes, sorry to interrupt you there, Anand. I'll come back to you for more details, but actor Arun Govil is now joining us here on this broadcast. So thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. We now have a date of when the consecration ceremony is going to take place of the Grand Ram Temple, of when it's going to be thrown open to devotees. Your first response?
Well, it's a wonderful news that starting on 14th and will happen finally on 22nd. We've been waiting for this day since so long, and it's going to come true now. And the day of 14th, Makar Sankranti has been an auspicious day all the time. So it's wonderful to have this news. Very nice. Waiting anxiously for this day.
And what do you think, Mr. Govil, the fact that the construction of the Ram Temple has happened at an expedited pace? We've seen the kind of mammoth task that was undertaken by this Ram Janmabhoomi Trust, by all the artisans who've been working tirelessly over the last few months.
Oh, they've done a wonderful job, and they have done their best, whatever in their own capacity. Everybody has done wonderful. We really are very thankful to all of them who have been in this huge task.
Absolutely, and all of that is going to be open for the world to see in just a few months from now. Mr. Govil, thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. Karthik Chopra of the Nirmohi Akhada also joining us here on this broadcast. So thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. We now have confirmation of when the Ram Temple in Ayodhya is going to be open. January 14th is when the Pran Pratishtha is going to happen. Your first response?
We are very happy that after almost close to 500 years, the Nirmohi Akhada is finally getting to see the construction of the Shri Ram Mandir and the Garbhagrihi with all the Pran Pratishtha, all the other religious tasks that are to be done, to be completed. And I think it is a glorious day for our country and a glorious day for Hindu Sanatanis all around the world, and for all those who believe in the teachings of Lord Ram. I think this is a wonderful day, and with the whole country and everyone should be very happy to have this news. We are happy that the temple has been also constructed at an expedited pace, and we don't have to wait for eternity for the temple construction to be completed, but prayers can begin early.
2020 was when we had seen the Bhumi Pujan happen, Mr. Chopra. 2024, in 4 years is when, less than 4 years in fact, if you look at the number of months, is when we'll have the completion already done, when the doors will be thrown open to devotees. The kind of mammoth exercise that has been taken, the fact that we've seen parts of the temple, parts of the carvings that have been got from across the country, the number of artisans that have been employed. Do you think this would have been possible if there was no political will? Do you think that is what has pushed forth the pace of this entire construction?
Never, because as the Nirmohi Akhada, we have suffered adverse political will over the decades when we were fighting the case. There were political parties which never wanted to see the completion of the judgment. We faced opposition from a number of them, and frankly, the Nirmohi Akhada has been in court since 1866 for this case. The other parties came in much later. So we have faced the brunt of the lack of political will right through. Even after the 2010 judgment came in the High Court, there was no will of the then political dispensation to follow it through in the Supreme Court. And we are very happy that it was finally pushed through. Day-to-day hearings were held, and we received a judgment in favor of the deity.
Absolutely, and there are many devotees like you that are going to be looking forward to this day in just a few months from now. Mr. Chopra, thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. This is the big news break that we have got for you. It is the month of September now. In just a few months from now, in January, is when we are expecting the Pran Pratishtha to happen at the Ram Temple in Ayodhya. We're then going to be seeing a formal inauguration, and the doors of the temple are going to be thrown open to devotees across the country and the world. Like the Nirmohi Akhada, and of course many within the Ram Janmabhoomi Trust, there are several across the country who are waiting for this day. A legal battle that went on for decades together has finally led into the culmination of the deity winning, as the Nirmohi Akhada put it, and the fact that this temple will now become a reality and be thrown open to devotees in just a few months from now. Pallavi Ghosh, my colleague, continues to be with us on this broadcast. Pallavi, we still have some sketchy details as far as what the dates exactly are going to be. There is a window of 1 week to 10 days in January January is what we're learning, but that is when we are going to be seeing several ceremonies being held, some of which would be attended by the Prime Minister and some perhaps not.
So basically, I tell you what the Pran Pratishtha means, that when you give Pran or a life into the idol, and that's according to Hindu Shastra, is how we actually set up temples where idols are now become Bhagwan for all of us. So the procedure is going to be that around 14, when the Makar Sankranti begins, is when the process of Pran Pratishtha is going to begin, and that's all the top saints and sages from across the country have been invited for that, and they are going to doing their mantra from Upanishads, from the Veds, and the process begins for the inauguration of the Ram Mandir. It's they who are going to fix one particular date, which is considered the Shubh most date, which could be any time between the 22nd to 24th of January. And of course, the Prime Minister, and this is something which we have reported earlier also, Poonam, that the Prime Minister is going to be present as a part of that inauguration of the Ram Mandir, where the work has been carried out at a breathtaking speed. It's apart from the politics of it, which has been mired into a lot of political controversy. I think now is the time also to understand that the deep religious and emotional connect, that entire idea of Ram Mandir it has, and therefore it is going to be a very emotive moment as far as India is concerned, and certainly for all of us who have been looking at with bated breath as far as the Ram Mandir is concerned. All these information are coming by way of sources within the Ram Trust, Ram Mandir Trust also, and also Mr. Dipendra Mishra, who was earlier in the Prime Minister's office, has also been made head of that trust, and he also has spoken on record by saying that the process of Pran Pratishtha begins on Makar Sankranti, which would carry on for roughly for another week or so, and then it's up to the sons to decide which is the Shubh-most date between the 22nd and 24th, likely to be on the 22nd, and definitely the Prime Minister is going to be present.
Back to you for more inputs, but reactions are pouring into this latest development and news coming in of when exactly the Ram Mandir is going to be thrown open. Let's listen into a reaction coming in from the head priest of the Ayodhya Ram Janmabhoomi temple as well.
तिथि को लेकर के एक बार स्पष्ट किया गया है कि 22 जनवरी ही वह शुभ दिन है जब रामलला भव्य मंदिर में विराजमान होंगे।
देखिए, कार्यक्रम तो 15 जनवरी से ही शुरू हो जाएगा और 15 जनवरी 24 जनवरी तक चलेगा, लेकिन जो मुहूर्त है, जैसा कि यहाँ पत्र लिख करके जो प्रधानमंत्री कार्यालय भेजा गया है, उसमें अन्य तिथियों के साथ साथ 22 जनवरी भी है। तो संभव है कि प्रधानमंत्री जी के आगमन का समय 22 जनवरी हो। इसीलिए नृपेंद्र मिश्रा जी ने जो कहा है, क्योंकि वो यह मंदिर निर्माण के प्रमुख हैं, इसलिए उनको इसकी पूर्णतया सूचना मिली होगी, तो उन्होंने जो कहा वही सत्य है कि
The chief architect of the temple that is being built, that is going to be thrown open in January, is now joining us here on this broadcast. Ashish Sompura, thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. Under your guidance, we've seen the building, the construction of this Ram temple happen at an expedited pace. We now have a date of when it is going to be thrown open to devotees. Your first response?
So great feeling. It's among one of the most prestigious projects we have till done, and it's even hard overwhelming things going to do, definitely so.
If you could walk us through the process of how since the Bhumi Pujan, the kind of work that you have done, the kind of artisans that were involved over the last 3 years. 2020 is when the Bhumi Pujan happened and then the construction began. If you could take us through how exactly the process has been for you.
This was a hard time when we have started, because just 3 years after the whatever the Supreme Court has been given the verdict and all this stuff, then Corona has started. So we have done a lot of work in the planning work in the VCs and all that stuff, and we have finalized the design, and things is happening throughout the construction period. Also, the construction difficulties, the narrow spaces, from where we have to take the big stones and all this stuff. But by the God's grace, by Ram Lalla, we have done it properly, and now we are on the proper way.
Sir, if I'm not mistaken, it was your father who had actually designed the Ram temple back in 1989. So personally for you also, this is going to be an emotional moment, isn't it? If you could tell us about that.
Yes, definitely. We were involved in since VHP has taken up from 1989 and 90. we have been designing. We were designing at the time also, and right now also we are doing the same thing. But from that 30 years of waiting, and after that, the whatever we have, my dad is also after, and after that me also, whatever been dreamed of that temple, and that is going to come up, and that is going to be open for the public. That's definitely a big moment for us.
Absolutely. Mr. Sompura, I also want to ask you one last question before I let you go. This is not the first temple that you or your family have been involved in the construction of. Your family has a long list of temples to its credit. If you could tell us if this experience was any different, and if it was, then how so?
Yes, definitely the temples that we are doing with for the we are doing for another what do you call it, the deities and another things. But this is where the Ram Lalla is born. And this is where the main, after, like you can say, after the Somnath temple, which has been 1950, which has been destroyed by the Mughals, which has been constructed at that time. After that, this is the first temple which has been done like that. So it's a great thing.
Ms. Sompura, thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. That was the man under whose guidance, the architect under whose guidance the construction was undertaken. The construction is nearing completion, and the Ram temple in Ayodhya is going to be thrown open to devotees in the month of January. 20th to 24th January is the window of dates that we're looking at. Several ceremonies are going to be held in those 4 days, in the days prior to that as well. We are going to be seeing artisans that have worked tirelessly over the last 3 years, over the last few months, and are only going to be working more expeditiously in the coming 3 months before the completion takes place. We're given to understand that December is when the completion of the construction would be done, perhaps 2 weeks or so before we see the actual inauguration happen. Pallavi, my colleague, continues to be with us. We'll try and reconnect that line with my colleagues there, getting us more details. But this is the big information that we are now getting for our viewers. The Prime Minister is going to be taking part in the ceremony, the formal inauguration of the Ram Temple in Ayodhya. The Ram Janmabhoomi Trust, remember, periodically has been sharing images, has been sharing videos of the status of the construction. It's over 50% done is the confirmation that we have. There are several features of this temple that are going to be borrowed from the past. Several of them are going to be unique to this particular temple is also what we've learned. What we also know is that there perhaps is going to be a multimedia show fountain that could be installed by the state government as far as the Ram temple premises are concerned. Thousands of people are expected to be gathering in Ayodhya during that week after the 14th of January, after Makar Sankranti, when we do see multiple ceremonies take place in Ayodhya before the doors are formally thrown open to devotees across the country. Pallavi, my colleague, I believe, is now with us on the broadcast. Pallavi, any more details that you can share with us of the dignitaries that are going to be present apart from the Prime Minister when the inauguration happens?
So what I'm being told is that all the head priests of all the mutts across the country, they're also going to be invited for this. And of course, the chief ministers of all the BJP ruled states are going to be there. There's a possibility of all the chief ministers being invited. Of course, the Uttar Pradesh chief minister, Yogi Adityanath, is very much going to be there. The prime minister's entire team is going to be there. The prime minister is also going to be meeting the entire team who have been working relentlessly for the building of the Ram Mandir. He has been meeting them earlier, but he's also going to be meeting them and personally thank each one of them. And all the card sevaks, they are the ones who are going to be met with by the Prime Minister. So these are the first few details which are coming in. Of course, it's going to be a grand show. It's going to be a very emotive moment. It's something which is very close to the Astha of the many Hindus across the country. And the Prime Minister is going to be addressing that Astha. And the reason why Makar Sankranti has been chosen, because that's when the period of the inauspicious period ends, and the auspicious period, according to a Hindu calendar, also begins happens, Poonam. So that's the reason why Makar Sankranti is the period which has been chosen for the Pran Pratishtha, and it's going to last for at least a week. And after that, the date is 22nd to 24th, most likely to be the 22nd. But what top sources in the Ram Mandir Trust told me is that we don't want to announce or fix any date for now. Likely to be on 22nd, but any date, that is the Pandits and the sons who are going to be doing puja are going to be announcing officially between the 22nd and 24th is when we can see the Ram Mandir becoming a reality finally.
And the construction of this has happened expeditiously, isn't it? 2020 is when the Bhumi Pujan had happened. The Prime Minister was there. 2024 is when we're going to be seeing the doors being thrown open for devotees. We've seen hundreds of karigars, hundreds of carvers, architects that have been involved in the construction of the Ram temple there. We also know that this complex, Pallavi, is going to have glimpses of across the country. We've seen bricks, we've seen marble that has been gotten from different parts of the country that are going to be a part of this temple.
Absolutely, Poonam. In fact, there has been this entire procedure which has been in place where every part of the country is going to be represented, and Mati from every part of the country, every big Shakti Peeth, all of them have been carried towards the construction of the Ram Mandir, and that is something which is, I can just talk very quick parallel, though it's not the same thing, to the construction of the new Parliament building, which has a representation of centuries of India's heritage and culture and Astha. All of that has been imbibed inside a new Parliament building. The Ram Mandir also is going to reflect India's centuries of Astha, religious belief, the Upanishads, the Veds, the Purans, all of them are going to find their way into a construction of the Ram Mandir.
Right, Pallavi, do stay on with us. There was anticipation of when this is going to happen. Celebrations have come to the fore. Celebratory messages have come to the fore after the announcements of the date. More reactions are now pouring in. Let's listen in.
मर्यादा पुरुषोत्तम भगवान श्री राम लला के दिव्य भव्य राम मंदिर निर्माण को लेकर के जहां सभी देशवासियों की, सभी राम भक्तों की दृष्टि जो है अटकी हुई थी कि वह शुभ घड़ी कौन सा दिन होगा जिस दिन प्रभु श्री राम लला अपने भव्य मंदिर में जाएंगे। आखिरकार वह घड़ी आ ही गई जिसके लिए वर्षों से राम भक्तों ने संघर्ष किया, पीढ़ियों ने संघर्ष किया, कितने राम भक्तों ने अपने प्राणों तक को आहूत कर दिया। आज देश विदेश में जो भी राम भक्त हैं वह इस घड़ी की प्रतीक्षा कर रहे थे कि कौन सा दिन होगा जिस दिन प्रभु श्री राम लला अपने भव्य मंदिर में विराजमान होंगे। वह उद्घाटन का दिन, वह शुभ घड़ी, वह शुभ मुहूर्त 22 जनवरी 2024 को प्रभु श्री राम लला अपने भव्य राम मंदिर में विराजमान हो जाएंगे। देश के बड़े बड़े मनीषियों ने, साधु संतों, धर्माचार्यों ने, बड़े बड़े विद्वानों ने मिलकर के वह शुभ मुहूर्त को जो है निकाला है। 22 जनवरी को इतना दुर्लभ योग पड़ रहा है जिस दिन प्रभु श्री राम लला अपने भव्य मंदिर में विराजमान होने जा रहे हैं। उस दिन से राम राज जैसा माहौल हो जाएगा। पूरे विश्व के लिए एक बहुत बड़ी उपलब्धि है कि मानवीय संस्कृति का उद्गम अयोध्या है। प्रभु श्री राम अपने भव्य मंदिर में विराजमान होंगे। वो दुर्लभ योग पड़ रहा है कि फिर से मानवता का परचम, भारतीय संस्कृति का परचम पूरी दुनिया में लहराएगा। वह शुभ घड़ी, वह शुभ दिन 22 जनवरी 2024।
22nd January 2024 is going to be when the Ram temple in Ayodhya is going to be thrown open to devotees across the country. We'll keep a track of that and much more here on CNN News 18. For now, it's time for a quick break.
Remember, the Prime Minister is there right now to address audiences. He'll be addressing crowds in just a little while from now. But in Rajasthan, his visit is of particular importance because remember, the BJP in Rajasthan has seen some disquiet within its state unit with various polls of leadership. Former Chief Minister Vasundhara Raje choosing not to attend rallies in multiple areas, seen as a seeming sign of her dissatisfaction with decisions being made by the central BJP leadership. So that disquiet very much remains. Remember, the Rajasthan state is currently ruled by the Congress government. Ashok Gehlot, the Chief Minister, is going to be launching that campaign against the BJP in just a few months from now. The Congress too in Rajasthan has seen its own fair share of infighting. Obviously, you must be familiar with this. Former Deputy Chief Minister Sachin Pilot's infighting with the Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot. So, two separate parties, both the BJP and the Congress in Rajasthan, with their own state party unit complications playing out. In Rajasthan itself, over the last few months, the BJP has carried out multiple yatras. We've also seen Home Minister Amit Shah and the Defence Minister Rajnath Singh address these yatras over the last few days itself. In one such yatra, we saw the Home Minister refer to the Sanatan Dharm controversy that was playing out down south. Remember, this is the controversy where a DMK leader made statements about the Sanatan Dharm. That was looked at as particularly interesting by experts, as an indication almost of what the BJP poll plan could look like in just a few months from now. Now, my colleague Arun with us to bring us more context. Arun, you joined us earlier in the day when the Prime Minister was giving speeches in Madhya Pradesh. Now he's obviously in Jaipur, two election-bound states. Can you bring our audiences more context about what lies in store here in Jaipur?
Well, see, Prime Minister Modi has a very jam-packed schedule today. Firstly, he started his day with a rally in Madhya Pradesh. Then he has reached Rajasthan, and after concluding his program in Rajasthan, remember, he will be reaching to Delhi and then participate in another program of Deen Dayal Upadhyay, the statue. So now, as we speak, Prime Minister Modi is in Jaipur, and remember that today is the culmination day of the Bharatiya Janata Party's Parivartan Yatra in Rajasthan, and of course, Prime Minister Modi, has been welcomed by women there, and the state BJP has planned this visit of Prime Minister Modi in a way that all the work related to Prime Minister's rally, stage work, etc., would be done by all women workers of Bharatiya Janata Party. And in fact, when Prime Minister Modi is arriving there, then on the both sides of the road, you'll have women workers welcoming Prime Minister Modi, thanking Prime Minister Modi for this women's reservation bill, which has come to the fore, and in fact passed by the Parliament's both houses, and therefore we are seeing that Prime Minister Modi is getting that welcome from the people of Rajasthan. He will of course be engaging with the audiences there. Prime Minister Modi will make sure that whenever he visits poll-bound states, he talk about those issues which are really mattering on the ground. And BJP has been actually targeting Congress Party on three issues. One, of course, is women's safety. Second is the appeasement politics of the Congress Party, and third is corruption. So these are the issues which BJP highlighted vis-a-vis Rajasthan is concerned in past couple of months.
Tell our audiences, Arun, we know that at least in the state of Rajasthan, anti-incumbency will work in the BJP's favour. But at the same time, the BJP, it seems, has had a difficult few months when it comes to their state unit. It seems, at least according to experts, that there are multiple claimants when it comes to the Chief Minister's position. Obviously, there's the former Chief Minister Vasundhara Raje, but there are also reports claiming that Satish Punia, Gajendra Singh Shekhawat, CP Joshi, all are attempting to lay claim to that position. Can you bring us more context?
Well, see, as of now, BJP has made it very clear to all those leaders whom you've just named that the election will be fought under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi. So there will not be any declaration of the chief ministerial candidate from the BJP's side, and that is, of course, to keep those objections under the wraps, because there are, of course, various leaders who have aspirations. You have Vasundhara Raje, who is the former chief minister of Rajasthan and a very strong leader, and therefore you have other leaders as well, like Gajendra Singh Shekhawat, CP Joshi, Rajendra Rathod. So without taking any risk, BJP is giving clear indication that they will fight this election under the leadership and on the face of Prime Minister Modi. And once, if they form the government, then they will decide who's going to be leading the Bharatiya Janata Party there in the state. And that is perhaps the reason why that message, in fact, has been given to all state leaders, that we have to fight this election collectively. So there shouldn't be any, individual campaigning or etc. And that was the reason why, if you see that Parivartan Yatra, which happened in Rajasthan, that was not led by one person. There were 4 yatras, which was led by 4 different leaders.
Arun, thank you for those details. We'll continue to check back in with my colleague. As you can see, the Prime Minister in Jaipur. It's time for a short break. On the other side, in just a few minutes, more of the country's top stories. This is the Breaking News Show. The Prime Minister, as you can see on the visuals in front of us, in Jaipur. A little while earlier, we brought you visuals of the Prime Minister in a rally in Madhya Pradesh. Both Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan are due for elections. You'll remember this year, in just a few months from now. In Rajasthan, remember, the Prime Minister is there right now to address audiences. He'll be addressing crowds in just a little while from now. But in Rajasthan, his visit is of particular importance because, remember, the BJP in Rajasthan has seen some disquiet within its state unit with various polls of leadership. Former Chief Minister Vasundhara Raje choosing not to attend rallies in multiple areas, seen as a seeming sign of her dissatisfaction with decisions being made by the central BJP leadership. So that disquiet very much remains. Remember, the Rajasthan state is currently ruled by the Congress government. Ashok Gehlot, the Chief Minister, is going to be launching that campaign against the BJP in just a few months from now. The Congress too in Rajasthan has seen its own fair share of infighting. Obviously, you must be familiar with this. Former Deputy Chief Minister Sachin Pilot's infighting with the Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot. So, two separate parties, both the BJP and the Congress in Rajasthan.
Welcome back. You're watching Nation at 5 with me, Poonam Burde. The diplomatic standoff between India and Canada continues, and the Trudeau administration is feeling the heat, which is why we saw perhaps them cracking down. We saw security that was put in place outside Indian missions across Canadian cities after a call was given by Khalistani sympathizers for protests to take place to lay siege at the Indian consulates and Indian missions there. But unfortunately for these Khalistani sympathizers, there are very little takers for their propaganda, because we saw very few people turn up for these protests, even as they tried to peddle propaganda, peddle lies as far as India is concerned. CNN News 18 is speaking to the voices that matter, the voices that are exposing Canada and Justin Trudeau's hypocrisy. Listen in.
Michael Bosicue, thanks a lot for speaking to CNN News 18. You're a global affairs expert from Canada and also a senior fellow at the Atlanta Council. I want to begin by asking you, you've of course written for CNN.com. Would you say that it is fair to say that Justin Trudeau made a miscalculation in the manner in which he publicly accused India of Nijjar's killing, and that it could have a lot to do with his domestic situation, which is of, lowering popularity ratings, interference of China being discussed quite a bit there, and also poor economic, concerns?
Yeah, a bit of both. But on the first point, a miscalculation, I think a lot of us feel that the Trudeau government acted very prematurely, that it was almost amateur hour at the Prime Minister's office. Why go public with these very, very serious allegations if the investigation isn't concluded? Secondly, what also is a bit of a head scratcher is why, for heaven's sake, why expel a senior Indian diplomat, hence escalating this situation quite a bit? Number one, when the investigation isn't completed, but number two, the Ukrainian community in Canada, which is quite sizable, has also been asking the Trudeau government to expel Russian diplomats since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Not one has been expelled since the start of the war of last year. Meanwhile, in Europe, several hundred have been expelled. So I don't know if we can call that a double standard, but it is a bit of a head scratcher. I think what has happened here, it is a debacle, fits into a pattern of the Trudeau government fumbling quite a bit, not only on foreign files, but also domestic ones. Trudeau is not polling well right now. If an election were held today, he probably wouldn't be prime minister. So that has to do with a lot of the domestic issues, housing crisis, cost of living crisis, and also ethics scandals. He has racked quite a few up in his time.
You also seem to suggest that Justin Trudeau has landed himself in a security swamp that no other big leader in the world would like to join him in. What do you make of how US and other countries could react? Is this a fight that Justin Trudeau has picked where the other powers, especially US, will not be willing to take sides?
Sure. Yeah, well, what I was speaking about is Canada is not punching above its weight the way it used to. We've been left out of, some recent major security deals, alliances, and Canada is not only our biggest trading partner, but our, of course, closest neighbor. We have the longest undefended border in the world. And usually both countries move in lockstep with each other. This is a case where that doesn't seem to be happening. So Canada, and especially Mr. Trudeau, may be feeling a little bit left out in the cold right now. And also, I don't think the UK or Australia really came to back him up. We all saw the images of Prime Minister Modi and President Biden in Delhi and elsewhere, and it's a very close relationship. I think when push comes to shove, the US will, at the end of the day, prioritize its evolving relationship with India over Canada. That's just the reality of geopolitics that we have today.
Mr. Aziz, you've also said that Trudeau, in a sense, is beholden to the New Democratic Party, his alliance partner, its leader, Jagmeet Singh, on whose MPs the Trudeau government's survival depends. It's not as if the Canadian Sikh community is pining for a Khalistan. In fact, out of that 700,000 plus Canadian Sikhs, a large majority, an overwhelming majority perhaps, want to have nothing to do with Khalistan. The question then is, why is Mr. Trudeau so beholden to such a tiny fraction or a tiny minority within that vote bank, the Canadian Sikh Punjabi vote bank?
Yeah, I mean, within the Sikh community in Canada, there is a large amount of diversity, right? We should never allow a few opinions to then define the entire community. And most of the Sikhs in Canada have ordinary concerns. And even when it comes to India, their concerns would have to do with family and business and visa and education and all those things, right? Improving a lot of their kids. These are universal concerns. Now, we do have a vocal minority that does support a separate homeland for Sikhs out of India called Khalistan that has its own movement. Most of them are peaceful as well, but of course there have been instances of violence. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the 1985 Air India bombing, which was a huge trauma, not just for India, but for Canada as well. And I know people who knew people on that flight. So we're not that far apart, the degrees of separation. And, the pain on this goes deep both ways, for Sikhs, for Indians, for Canadians as well. And ultimately, both political parties, to be very blunt with you, Conservative Party and Liberal Party, began doing this ethnic pandering to win votes, partially because they didn't understand these communities. Most of the politicians were white. They weren't interested in, what's a Sikh versus a Muslim versus a Hindu. They just, that wasn't what what are the ways that people actually live here, because, in Canada, everyone seems to just get along. It's one of the great things of this country. One of my worries, just as a side point, is the communalism and sectarianism that has bedeviled India for so long and South Asia. It would be a real tragedy if we start seeing that here, right? So, 99% of people are safe. It's totally fine. I don't share Jagmeet Singh's accusations that every Sikh in Canada is facing danger. I don't think that's true. I think, if anything, we need to calm the temperature a little bit and allow rationality and sober analysis to reign here. But the diaspora elements of it does have support for Khalistan. It's a democracy, so people have to allow for multiple perspectives to be heard. And both Conservative and Liberal parties in Canada have tried to win those votes. To become leader of either party, you often have to have strong constituencies across the country in different communities. So the structure of Canadian politics and democracy allowed for ethnic diaspora politics to really thrive. And the politicians themselves often didn't care about these communities to that extent. They just wanted the votes, right? So it kind of became this perfect storm. And where it impacts foreign affairs is that, what a community is doing at home, if it impacts the world or the global stage, another country might be impacted by that and will raise those concerns. So I'm someone, by the way, who has always rejected this kind of ethnic divisive politics. I don't think it's helpful for any country or any society. It ultimately set us back. And I think, from foreign policy perspective, as I said in the essay, we can't allow for certain domestic constituencies or issues to distort our long-term foreign policy priorities, which are a lot more complicated and comprehensive and long-term than simply, a non-issue like Khalistan. Because if we're honest, there's not going to be a Sikh homeland out of India. Okay. This is not a major issue in India. And so I think that the distortionary effects on foreign policy is how we ultimately got here.
On that note, it's time for a quick break here on this edition of Nation at 5, but lots lined up for you on the other side. Do stay tuned.
State party unit complications playing out. In Rajasthan itself, over the last few months, the BJP has carried out multiple yatras. We've also seen Home Minister Amit Shah and the Defence Minister Rajnath Singh address these yatras over the last few days itself. In one such yatra, we saw the Home Minister refer to the Sanatan Dharm controversy that was playing out down south. Remember, this is the controversy where a DMK leader made statements about the Sanatan Dharm. That was looked at as particularly interesting by experts, as an indication almost of what the BJP poll plan could look like in just a few months from now. Now, my colleague Arun with us to bring us more context. Arun, you joined us earlier in the day when the Prime Minister was giving speeches in Madhya Pradesh. Now he's obviously in Jaipur, two election-bound states. Can you bring our audiences more context about what lies in store here in Jaipur?
Well, see, Prime Minister Modi has a very jam-packed schedule today. Firstly, he started his day with a rally in Madhya Pradesh. Then he has reached Rajasthan, and after concluding his program in Rajasthan, remember, he'll be reaching to Delhi and then participate in another program of Deen Dayal Upadhyay, the statue. So now, as we speak, Prime Minister Modi is in Jaipur, and remember that today is the culmination day of the Bharatiya Janata Party's Parivartan Yatra in Rajasthan. And of course, Prime Minister Modi, has been welcomed by women there, and the state BJP has planned this visit of Prime Minister Modi in a way that all the work related to Prime Minister's rally, stage work, etc., would be done by all women workers of Bharatiya Janata Party. And in fact, when Prime Minister Modi is arriving there, then on the both sides of the road, you'll have women workers welcoming Prime Minister Modi, thanking Prime Minister Modi for this women's reservation bill, which has come to the fore, and in fact passed by the Parliament's both houses. And therefore, we are seeing that Prime Minister Modi is getting that welcome from the people of Rajasthan. He will, of course, be engaging with the audiences there. Prime Minister Modi will make sure that whenever he visits poll-bound states, he talk about those issues which are really mattering on the ground. And BJP has been actually targeting Congress Party on three issues. One, of course, is women's safety. Second is the appeasement politics of the Congress Party, and third is corruption. So these are the issues which BJP highlighted vis-a-vis Rajasthan is concerned in past couple of months.
Tell our audiences, Arun, we know that at least in the state of Rajasthan, anti-incumbency will work in the BJP's favour. But at the same time, the BJP, it seems, has had a difficult few months when it comes to their state unit. It seems, at least according to experts, that there are multiple claimants when it comes to the Chief Minister's position. Obviously, there's the former Chief Minister Vasundhara Raje, but there are also reports claiming that Satish Punia, Gajendra Singh Shekhawat, CP Joshi, all are attempting to lay claim to that position. Can you bring us more context?
Well, see, as of now, BJP has made it very clear to all those leaders whom you've just named that the election will be fought under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi. So there will not be any declaration of the chief ministerial candidate from the BJP's side, and that is, of course, to keep those objections under the wraps, because there are, of course, various leaders who have aspirations. You have Vasundhara Raje, who is the former chief minister of Rajasthan and a very strong leader, and therefore you have other leaders as well, like Gajendra Singh Shekhawat, CP Joshi, Rajendra Rathod. So without taking any risk, BJP is giving clear indication that they will fight this election under the leadership and on the face of Prime Minister Modi. And once, if they form the government, then they will decide who's going to be leading the Bharatiya Janata Party there in the state. And that is perhaps the reason why that message, in fact, has been given to all state leaders that we have to fight this election collectively. So there shouldn't be any, individual campaigning or etc. And that was the reason why, if you see that Parivartan Yatra, which happened in Rajasthan, that was not led by one person. There were 4 yatras, which was led by 4 different leaders.
Arun, thank you for those details. We'll continue to check back in with my colleague. As you can see, the Prime Minister in Jaipur. It's time for a short break. On the other side, in just a few minutes, more of the country's top stories. This is the Breaking News Show. The Prime Minister, as you can see on the visuals in front of us, in Jaipur. A little while earlier, we brought you visuals of the Prime Minister in a rally in Madhya Pradesh. Both Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan are due for elections. You'll remember this year, in just a few months from now. In Rajasthan, remember, the Prime Minister is there right now to address audiences. He'll be addressing crowds in just a little while from now. But in Rajasthan, his visit is of particular importance because, remember, the BJP in Rajasthan has seen some disquiet within its state unit with various polls of leadership. Former Chief Minister Vasundhara Raje choosing not to attend rallies in multiple areas, seen as a seeming sign of her dissatisfaction with decisions being made by the central BJP leadership. So that disquiet very much remains. Remember, the Rajasthan state is currently ruled by the Congress government. Ashok Gehlot, the Chief Minister, is going to be launching that campaign against the BJP in just a few months from now. The Congress too in Rajasthan has seen its own fair share of infighting. Obviously, you must be familiar with this. Former Deputy Chief Minister Sachin Pilot's infighting with the Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot. So, 2 separate parties, both the BJP and the Congress in Rajasthan, with their own state party unit complications playing out. In Rajasthan itself, over the last few months, the BJP has carried out multiple yatras. We've also seen Home Minister Amit Shah and the Defence Minister Rajnath Singh address these yatras over the last few days itself. In one such yatra, we saw the Home Minister refer to the Sanatan Dharm controversy that was playing out down south. Remember, this is the controversy where a DMK leader made statements about the Sanatan Dharm. That was looked at as particularly interesting by experts, as an indication almost of what the BJP poll plan could look like in just a few months from now. Now, my colleague Arun with us to bring us more context. Arun, you joined us earlier in the day when the Prime Minister was giving speeches in Madhya Pradesh. Now he's obviously in Jaipur. 2 election-bound states. Can you bring...
Welcome back. The Cauvery water wars between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu reached a fever pitch with a bandh being called in Bengaluru today. Protests took place across the city. Several pro-Kannada organizations, farmer organizations and the BJP hit the streets against the decision to release more water to Tamil Nadu as directed by the Cauvery Water Management Board. CNN News 18 was on ground taking stock of when these protests were taking place. Take a look.
Various organizations here in IT city Bengaluru calls for a bandh regarding the Cauvery water sharing issue, and that has now caused a huge inconvenience for the commuters here. In fact, I am right now at Majestic railway station, and here a few of them are trying to travel as well, but they are finding it difficult to get their autos, buses in fact on the right time. सर, आप कहाँ से हैं और दरअसल क्या कुछ तकलीफ देखना पड़ रहा है आज, क्योंकि यहाँ पे बेंगलुरु में बंद भी बुलाया गया है?
मेरा नाम बीवीएस रेड्डी है, मैं विशाखापट्टनम से आया इधर, जरूर काम पे आया था, बट आज मेरा काम कोई भी नहीं हो पाया, सही की वजह से नहीं हो पाया। मैं कौन सा ये जो सही का बंद का वजह से कोई भी बस का प्रॉब्लम है और उसके बाद ट्रेन का प्रॉब्लम है, उसके बाद जैसे मैं एयरपोर्ट जाना चाहिए था, एयरपोर्ट में मेरा ट्रैवल का प्रॉब्लम आ रहा है।
Well, there you see there's a huge inconvenience that has been caused right now in the IT city because of the Bengaluru bandh, and in fact today is Bengaluru bandh, and in the coming days, in this week itself, there's another bandh that has been called across the Karnataka as well. So right now there's a huge pressure that has been mounted on the government as well, because the commuters are in fact finding it difficult to get their autos, buses as well. Now here ones whom we tried to speak also in fact were supposed to go by flight, but due to the ban they did knew that there would be an inconvenience that will actually be cost to them. So that's the reason they had to take a train. Needs to be seen with so much happening across the city, how will the government in fact respond to it?
With that, it's a wrap from my side here on this edition of Nation at 5. Anusha, my colleague, joins you next.
Good evening, hello and welcome. You're watching Viewpoint. I'm Anusha Soni. The focus tonight is the campaign blitz of Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the run-up to the assembly elections in the Hindi heartland. You heard the Prime Minister yesterday when he spoke about the Women Reservation Bill and how the Congress party was run by quote-unquote urban Naxals. While the entire narrative around the elections is likely to heat up in the coming few days, one thing is abundantly clear, that the BJP is taking this story to town. Double engine ki sarkar and the Women Reservation Bill is the narrative, is the poll plank that will define what BJP promises to the people of each of these states. Even today, Prime Minister is scheduled to land in Gujarat on a 2-day visit.